So thank you, Yair, for that, I think, short but very deep lesson. And Meir Ariel is really, he's kind of, his words and his songs are really, I think, shaped in a lot of ways Israel's discourse or Israel's thought in some ways, in some parts of society. And it takes us really in a very, I think, special way to our second session, which is really the panel, the form that we have here. So in the song Meir Ariel, it says, "Modeh ani al hatova ve'al hara'ah." It says, I thank God for the good things that have happened to me and for the bad things that have happened to me. Now, from a religious point of view, to thank God for the bad things that have happened, I think it's a very tough place to be in. So I don't want to talk about thanking for bad things that have happened, but we know that our life is filled with good, is filled with happiness, and is filled with sadness. And if I said in the beginning, before we started Dr. Rachel's session, Ze hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismecha bo, this is the day that we should rejoice in. This is the holiday of Atzmaut, of our independence. We know that in Israel, the last 10 days, we've gone from Yom HaZikaron HaShoah v'Lagvura, Remembrance Day for the Holocaust, to just a day ago, Yom HaZikaron Lechalelei Tzahal U'Pa'olot HaIva, the Memorial Day for the soldiers who have been killed and for the people who have been killed in terror attacks, and straight away to the Day of Independence. And that move, that transformative move from one day being in deep sadness, and then within an hour being told to rejoice, is something that is not only very difficult, but in some ways it shapes who we are. Some people that connection is very important to them, and for some people they wish it wouldn't be the case. It would be a little bit more separate, but never the case. That's what Israel. So we're gonna meet our panelists real soon. We have Raya Ofner with us, and Sara Takalo, and Ayal, and Rabbi Stephen Ream. And it's a very special panel because it's also people from Israel, but also from the United States. So we're going to be talking about Israel 2020 and people living in Israel, to talk about that connection. And we named this panel, we said, gratitude and struggle, because there's things we have to be grateful for. There's a lot of things we have to be grateful for, but no state comes to birth with no prices and no challenges. So we're going to try to be in both places. Our rabbis teach us, several rabbis, we say lev shalem ulev shavur, and that also goes to modern song, that a complete heart, a whole heart, is a heart that is broken, that it has shvarim, that it has cracks in it, if you may, because we know that a complete heart is not a heart that has never suffered or that has never coped with difficulties, but it's because we know how to take everything together and keep on building our state, keep on building our life. So what we're gonna do, the way we're gonna handle this is that we're gonna meet our panelists for just an opening remarks, to say who they are, and then we're gonna have some longer questions for everybody, for the panelists to kind of talk for about 7 to 10 minutes each panelist, and we might be able to have some more questions. But before we start, I want to invite anybody who has questions along the way. You can write your questions on the chat, and we're going to collect questions, and then we're gonna bring these questions to our panelists so they can answer it in the last part of the panel. That way you don't have to remember your questions, and also we can kind of make sure that everybody can hear and be a part of the discussion. So with no further delay, as we say, I'd like to start and ask our panelists just to introduce themselves, say who they are, where they're coming from, and maybe give us a short, maybe tell us your first memory, or maybe your most profound memory, one of the first memories that you have of Yom HaAtzmaut in your life. So, so if I can, I'll just point if we can start with the Ayal. Ayal, maybe you'll be the first one to represent yourselves. Okay.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Not so good.
Is this better?
Yeah, better.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you everyone. My name is Ayal. I was born in Israel. My New York accent is a result of my parents making Aliyah to Israel in 1975, living for 2 years down south in Yerucham, and then moving to Rehovot, where I grew up, to English-speaking parents. And I'm a kibbutz member of Hannaton and work as an educator for the past 10 years or so. Currently mostly invested in educational projects of leadership and social change within the Hannaton Education Center. When Yoav asked me earlier today to think of the most profound or a special Yom HaAtzmaut that I had, it was challenging for me because, to be honest, this is the first time that I'm home in Yom HaAtzmaut in the past 7 years. The past 7 years, I've been leading a March of the Living trip to Poland, which starts, as some of you are familiar maybe, with a Holocaust Memorial Day in Poland, and specifically in the March of the Living in Auschwitz, and then the group comes to Israel. So this is the first time that I'm actually at home with my kids and not working within the realm of Jewish education and Holocaust education specifically. So I think I'm going to say that this was very special for me. The fact that I was able to, with the whole odd reality of the epidemic that is going on and the lack of freedom and ability to do everything that I would want to do, the blessing of being with my 3 kids and enjoying a beautiful sunny afternoon with my family was for me a very special Independence Day. So that was what I did today, and very, very grateful for that.
Thank you, Ayal. We're going to move to Raya. Raya, if you could say a few words about yourself, one of the first memories of Yom HaAtzmaut. Raya, bemute.
Okay. Hello and Chag Sameach to everybody. I'm Raya Ofner. I live in Kiryat Ivon now, but I was born in a small village, in a youth village that my parents, who escaped from Germany just before the Holocaust, founded. A youth village first it was for children that escaped from Germany, and then for children from all over the world, immigrants, children without families, without parents. And we, the children of the staff and the workers, we grew up with those children. And so we were able to know their culture and traditions. And Yom HaAtzmaut for me as a child was a very happy day. We didn't pay much attention to the day before, to the Memorial Day. We were kids and we loved the free day and all the activities that were, and but it changed. The meaning of Yom HaAtzmaut changed for me, and we were at the kibbutz. When I grew up, I joined the group of friends from Bnei Akiva, and we founded a new kibbutz near Gaza with is prospering now at Kibbutz Alumim, and we lived there for 25 years. I was married there to Yossi, and we had 4 boys. And Yom HaAtzmaut in the kibbutz was also very challenging because we, as an idealistic society, we wanted to contain a new and new meaning, more Israeli to this day. So we had some ceremonies, and when the children grew up, they took part also in the ceremonies. And still, the Yom HaAtzmaut was a happy days, but in the times, during the years, lots of our friends were killed in the war. There was the 6-day war, and Yom Kippur, and Lebanon, and in between. And so it meant more and more the Memorial Day. After 25 years, we moved to Kiryat Tivon. And in Kiryat Tivon also, Yom HaAtzmaut was a family day. Memorial Day was very moving here, is still very moving here in Tivon. And Yom HaAtzmaut was a day of picnic, being with friends, with family, still a day of joy and real joy for what we were success to do until this day. So it changed, but I think I will speak of this in the second term, okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Raya. Thank you very much.
And I apologize for my bad English.
Your English is perfect. So we're going to move to our third panelist, Rabbi Stephen Rein. If you could say a few words about yourself and your Yom HaAtzmaut.
Sure. So as Rabbi Ende mentioned, Rabbi Stephen Ream, Rabbi of a congregation in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. Grew up in New Jersey, spent many years living in the New York area. And one of the many hats that I wear, in addition to being a rabbi of a congregation, is I'm also a reserve chaplain in the United States Air Force, serving at Arlington National Cemetery. And also the grandchild of 2 really distinguished individuals, two grandfathers, one a survivor of the Shoah, of the Holocaust, and the other an individual who fought for the Army Air Corps in World War II, and sort of those 2 worlds colliding here with me today. In terms of my memories of Yom HaAtzmaut, certainly growing up, we would go to the JCC, the local community center, and I remember hearing concerts of David Baroza on Yom HaAtzmaut. But I think most memorable was the first Yom HaAtzmaut I spent in Israel when I was living there in 2007, because it was the first time that you weren't just sort of this celebrating separate from a community, but celebrating with a community together with brothers and sisters in Israel. And that was truly a memorable moment.
Thank you, Rabbi Ream. Thank you very much. It's really special to have this joint panel. So thanks for technology. Our fourth panelist, we're going to ask her to introduce herself, is Sara. Sara is one of our students, our alumni. So Sara, if you could say a few words about yourself and one of your first memories of Yom HaAtzmaut.
So, hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. If you could kind of move the,
like
that's
this?
great. Thank you. Yeah, great.
Cool. So, hello everyone. Chag Atzmaut Sameach. My name is Sara. I am 21 years old. I was born and raised in Jerusalem. Both of my parents came from Ethiopia 22 years ago. And so 2 years ago, I took part in a very significant year in the pre-military program in Hannaton. It's been a year for me of personal growth, challenge, maturing, disillusionment, and the understanding of your personal responsibility for the community, for the society. And for the past year and a half, I am a soldier I've been serving in the army, in the IDF. So this is what I'm doing in these days. The Independence Day is celebrated in our family like every year in the same way since I was a little girl. Sorry. We celebrate like most of the Israeli people, I believe, with an extended family, with lots of joy and happiness and lots of food, of course. Yeah, that it is.
Thank you, Sara. Toda rabba. So these are our panelists, as you can see. So we're going to have a very, I think, deep and special picture of Independence Day and Memorial Day and the struggles and the challenges that we have and the gratitude that we have for being and living here. So now we're going to start with, I think, just like longer questions or deeper eyesight. And Raya, we're going to start with you, basically continuing your first presentations and asking really, as you started, what Independence Day was for you as a child or growing up in Israel, and what Independence Day is for you today, where you are, and basically, which is, what are you grateful for living here, but what are the struggles and the pains that you carry with you? So we're going to hand it to you.
Okay. I would like to start with a short film that we made, and I think then after it describes a project that we are in, and maybe after this I will continue. Okay?
Sure. So this film is going to be about 5 minutes, I think, right? Yeah. About 4 to 5 minutes. So we're going to see it, and then I was going to talk about it. So.
Okay. יכולה להגדיל את המסך? לא, אבל לא שומעים. שומעים?
לא, לא שומעים, נירה. לא שומעים. 1 second.
רק רגע. שמה? רגע. עכשיו שומעים?
לא.
לא? לא שומעים, לא.
אומייגאד.
מה שאפשר לעשות זה להשמיע את זה בטלפונים. אני פשוט יכול להשמיע את זה פה. We're sorry, just technical things. I think another, try to solve them very fast.
רק רגע. אתם לא שומעים? לא שמעתם?
לא.
אז את רוצה שאני קודם אדבר ואז נראה את הסרט?
אני לא יודעת מה זה יעזור, כי כשניסינו קודם זה עבד, אז...
Let's try maybe to talk a little bit before and then try to see the movie again, and maximum we could, Raya, you could put it on your phone and we can hear it, and Nira, you could put it so we could see it. But let's start with, let's stop the share screen, Nira, if you can, and maybe we'll start with the talking.
Yeah. So, okay. So after 25 years in the kibbutz, we moved to Kiryat Tivon. Our 2 sons finished to serve in the army. They were students, and our third son, Avi, was serving, was in the army for the last months, and he served most of his service in Lebanon, in the security zone, which was a very dangerous place to be. And February 1997 was a very harsh winter. And on the 4th of February, 2 helicopters crashed over Sha'ar Yashuv, which is a small village near the border to Lebanon. And the helicopters carried 73 soldiers to the security zone. And all the 73 soldiers were killed, and Avi was among them. Since that day, the meaning of Yom Ha'atzmaut and Memorial Day changed for us. It's not that Memorial Day was very special to us, to me, or more special. It is, in my eyes, it is special because this is a day for all the society to remember, not only for the families or the parents of the fallen ones. It is an opportunity to the society to stand by the families, to be and to honor and to embrace the family and the memorial of the soldiers that literally gave their life so we can live here in peace. And the film that I wanted to show you is about a project that we founded a few years after Avi was killed. And it's a walk on the trail of the National Trail of Israel, a memorial walk, not only for our son and his 72 friends, but we expanded it, and now it's for all the soldiers and people that were killed during the years in Israel. And the walk, and now it's about 18 years, before 18 years we started, and every year for 2 months, we lead thousands of people from Eilat in the south to the north, to the memorial site in Sha'ar Yashuv. And in this walk, we able people not only to discover the site, the wonderful site of Israel, but especially to be able to speak to each other in an honest and truthful way, to look each other's eyes, in each other's eyes, and to speak without, to listen and speak without prejudice or stereotypes. And this is the meaning of this walk for us. And every year, a day or two before the Memorial Day, we finish to walk and we are coming back. I come back exhausted physically and emotionally to these 2 days, the Memorial Day and the Yom Ha'atzmaut. But this year it was different. It is different because after 3 weeks, we had to cut the walk. And we had plenty of time to think about this Memorial Day and the Yom HaAtzmaut, because as I told you, every year the Memorial Day is special, and lots of people are coming, not only to us, to all the families. I think most of the society, Israeli, in Israel, the society in Israel is visiting families and walking to friends and who lost the loved one in the wars. And we know that this year it will be different. That nobody can come and we be alone. So it gave us a chance to think and rethink on the meaning of these 2 days. And I think that I know that the Memorial Day remind us the unwritten contract between us, the living society, and those who gave their life so we can live here. The contract says that we, in return for their life, must do our best to keep an independent, just, orderly society full of kindness and compassion. And this is what we try to do in our trail. And we couldn't finish it this year, but we hope it will continue, and we will have the opportunity to do our little share. And this is the Independence Day, the Yom HaAtzmaut for me.
Thank you, Raya,
נראה את הסרט עכשיו? ננסה
for your
לראות את
words,
הסרט.
and we'll try to see now the movie that can bring the context and you could visualize it to see. It's a pretty unbelievable program, so we're going to try to everybody to see it and to hear it, and we'll come back to it. מצוין.
שומעים?
יוסי העלה את הרעיון שהוא יעשה את המסע לאורך שביל ישראל, שזה אז ככה התחיל להיות פופולרי, לזכר אבי והנופלים באסון המסוקים. כל פעם שהוא יעבור במקום לפי המפה, אזור שמישהו גר שם, מישהו מהנופלים, הוא יקדיש את היום, גם לו.
נפגשים בשעה 7 בנקודה זו וזו. מי שבא, אומרים שלום, בוקר טוב, עושים מעגל היכרות קצר.
שמחים מאוד עם כל מי שהגיע ללכת ולצעוד איתנו היום, ובמיוחד אנחנו שמחים עם הקבוצה הנחמדה שעומדת כאן, שהם חברי מסע מארגנטינה.
יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, שתליכנו לשלום ותצידנו לשלום ותשמחנו לשלום.
כל אחד אומר שהילד שלו היה מיוחד, וכל אחד הוא מיוחד להורים שלו. הוא היה שונה מהאחים שלו ומרוב החברים בכיתה, כי הוא כל הזמן שאל שאלות. הוא שאל שאלות וחפר חפירות וחקר חקירות.
ספרים זה היה האהבה הגדולה שלו, קריאה הייתה אהבה גדולה מאוד שלו. היה לו בעיה בכלל עם סמכות, ומגיל מאוד מאוד צעיר.
בילינו לא מעט בחדר המורים, חדר המנהל.
היה מתווכח והיה לו מה להגיד על כל דבר, במיוחד על עניינים שקשורים במוסר ובצדק חברתי, מה שנקרא לוחם צדק ידוע.
למעט לשפוך את הפח אשפה.
אני זוכרת שבבוקר שאחרי אסון המסוקים, כשפתחתי את העיתון וראיתי 73 תמונות של נופלים בשמות משפחה, וחשבתי לעצמי, זה אנשים שאני לא מכירה. זאת אומרת, מילא הם, אבל המשפחות שלהם, אני לא מכירה אותם. ואני לא רוצה בכלל להכיר אותם. אני לא רוצה להיות חלק מזה בכלל. ויחד עם זה היה לי מאוד ברור באותו רגע שהחיים שלי מהיום והלאה קשורים בחיים של האנשים האלה.
אני חושב שאחד הדברים שבדרך כלל הורים, משפחה או מי שחווה שכול, מתעסק זה, אם מה שהוא עושה זה נכון. זאת אומרת, אם זה מתאים למה שהחלל היה רוצה שהוא יעשה.
מה שדחף אותי כל הזמן, זה שאני לא מוכנה שישכחו את אבי, שישכחו אותם, את הנופלים באסון המסוקים. זה היה סוג של מחויבות שלי. זה עדיין סוג של מחויבות שלי, שכל זמן שאני יכולה, אני לא אתן שישכחו אותם. אנחנו צריכים להחיות את הזיכרון, אנחנו צריכים, שואלים אותנו עליו, כל פעם במסע, אז אני מספרת על אבי. אני זוכר, זה היה באחד הערבים של השבעה שנגמרו בסביבות 1 ו-2 בלילה, ובאו כל כך הרבה אנשים, שישבנו, ככה נשארנו אנחנו והילדים, ואז זה יוסי אמר, שאנחנו צריכים עכשיו להבטיח, אנחנו נעשה הבטחה משפחתית, שאנחנו לא ניפול, ולא רק שלא ניפול, אלא אנחנו נחיה טוב, ונחיה אפילו יותר טוב ממה שחיינו קודם. בדיעבד אני חושבת שזאת החלטה נורא נכונה, כי היא חייבה אותנו אחרי שהחלטנו. ושהמסע הזה מאפשר לנו להיות כל הזמן, איך לקרוא לזה, בצד של החיים, בצד של העשייה שהיא עשייה של חיים. אנחנו באנו מקיבוץ אלומים, גרנו בנגב. באופן טבעי היה לנו חיבור לטבע, לאדמה. חושבת מה הוא היה אומר, ואז אני אומרת לו, הלכת, השארת אותנו פה, זה מה שאנחנו יודעים לעשות. ואנחנו מנסים לעשות את זה הכי טוב שאנחנו יכולים. אבל אין לי ספק שהיה סומך את ידיו על זה, ושהוא היה נורא נהנה מזה, כמו שיוסי אומר, הוא היה הולך, הוא היה מתווכח פה עם אנשים.
היינו מתים לראות אותו יושב בסדנה כזאת בקבוצת דיון. יום אחד היה מתווכח פה, יום אחד היה מתווכח שם, בול בשבילו זה היה.
יש לנו ארץ עם המון אסונות, אי אפשר גם כל הזמן ללכת עם המסע הזה על השכם, ואנשים צריכים באמת לחיות. אבל מדי פעם, תזכרו אותם. רק תזכרו אותם, הם היו 73 מבין המונים אחרים עם פוטנציאל אדיר. שהחברה שלנו, אני לא יודעת איך הייתה נראית, אם הם כולם היו יכולים להמשיך ולתרום לה.
יש חוב לנופלים, הוא לא להזכיר אותם, אלא להקים חברה שתהיה ראויה לקורבן שלהם, או לנפילה שלהם.
נירה, זה נגמר.
כל הכבוד. Okay, thank you, Nira. Thank you, Raya. We're going to come back to you later on. So I think what's very special, if you can see through this short movie, is that really we're talking about the fabric of Israel society, saying that our obligation is really to build a better society. Not only a stronger army, but just a better society, to be better people. And I think that's one of the things also that goes with me in these days, saying how can we actually be better? How can we be grateful for what we have, but how can we try to make it even better on a human level? So now I'd like to pose the second question to Rabbi Rein and to Ayal in that order. And I'd like to say that if we're trying to talk about a little bit maybe on a philosophical level, but we're going to bring it down very fast. We know that in our Megillat Ha'atzmaut, Declaration of Independence in Israel, we say, Be'eretz Yisrael kama Am HaYehudi, that in the land of Israel is the birthplace of the Jewish people. But we know that that's actually not true. The Jewish people have not been born in Israel. They have been born in the diaspora. But of course, in a lot of ways, they shaped themselves here. So in that sense, our connection with the state is a connection of marriage. We put our love and our obligation, our covenant, I would say, with this land. And I want to use a phrase that it's a custom to use in weddings, and the end of the weddings, which are the most happy days that we have in our life, maybe, we say that it's a custom to say, Im yeshgachech Yerushalayim. Again, I'll say this in English. If I forget thee, Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning, let my tongue cleave to her roof of my mouth. If I remember thee not, if I set not Jerusalem above my chiefest joy. So in the happiest day that we have when we're getting married to the person that we love, we're talking about memory. And we're talking about, if I forget thee, Jerusalem, I forget myself. So my question is the following. When we say, if I forget thee, Jerusalem, what don't we want to forget? What shouldn't we forget? In the sense that there's something that if we forget it, we forget ourselves. So we know that in tradition we talk about Yerushalayim Shel Ma'ala, the heavenly Jerusalem, or Yerushalayim Shel Mata, the earthly Jerusalem. So in other words, what should we forget? Should we not forget our dreams, or should we not forget the Jerusalem of day to day? So that thinking about Israel, that wedding that we actually say in Yom Ha'atzmaut, it's kind of our marriage day with this country is, what should we forget? What if we forget it, we forget ourselves? So I'd like to open that question to Rabbi Rein and to begin the discussion with you.
Right. Thank you, Yoav. So I originally thought of sharing texts from our tradition that highlight these sort of two conceptions of Yerushalayim and Jerusalem. I thought about the prophets and our liturgy that yearn for Jerusalem, the Yerushalayim Shamala, right, the Jerusalem of our dreams for the last 2,000 years. You mentioned a wedding, right? We also say, Yishma bi'arei Yehuda u'v'chutzot Yerushalayim, kol chatan v'kol kala, right? That there shall be heard in this place, in the towns of Judah and the streets of Jerusalem, the voice of bridegroom and bride. We recite in our Amidah, Yerushalayim Yercha B'rachamim Tashuv V'nei Ota B'karov B'yameinu B'nyan Olam Baruch Ata Hashem B'nei Yerushalayim. Right, return to Jerusalem, your city in mercy, and build her soon in our days forever. Blessed are you, God, who builds Jerusalem. And of course, we say in Birkat Hamazon, V'nei Yerushalayim Yerkodesh B'meira B'yameinu. Like we build Jerusalem, the holy city, soon and in our day. And I also thought about one of Israel's great poets, Yehuda Amichai, who wrote that redemption will come only if the tour guides say, you see that arch there from the Roman period, it's not important. But next to it, left and down a bit, there sits a man who just bought fruit and vegetables for his family. So, and as I thought about all of this, I kept thinking that there's a bigger question for American Jews today. And that is, why should I care about either Jerusalem? Right? It's easy to lament that young people, especially in America or outside of Israel, don't care. And why should they? Right? Why should we care about the state of Israel for those who don't live there? And in our attempt to remember Jerusalem, right, are we remembering together, or are we remembering apart? And that's the struggle that I want to sort of just tease out a little bit. In the United States, I think there has surfaced over the last several decades two primary causes or two primary sources to justify our care. Right? The first is that Israel is and this is somewhat of a historical reason, right? Israel is the only solution to the Jewish problem for the Jewish condition, like the only place where Jews can be safe. Very much an earthly Jerusalem model, right? And if you think Jews are safe in America, right, so did Jews in Germany. Right, so why should I care? Because you never know. Like caring is an insurance policy. Caring is a place we can go to when life gets bad here. We can rally around that cause, around the fear sitting in the corner. Right, so we don't forget Jerusalem because we might need a port one day, and Israel has two of them. And this worked for a while, but then a major tragedy happened to Jewish life in America, and that is we're not hated enough. The Jewish community here, for the most part, is thriving, right? And caring about Israel because you never know is increasingly insignificant, right? It's not compelling, right? That's not a reason to not forget Yerushalayim. Most Jews, especially those in North America, as being in imminent danger. And a narrative of not forgetting Jerusalem that is based on such anxiety is antiquated and at best secondary. So that's number one. And number two, the second foundation for why should we care, why should we not forget Jerusalem, Yerushalayim has been, that if Israel is not our safety net, then lo and behold, we are Israel's safety net. And that narrative also doesn't work anymore, right? Jews in the diaspora in America and around the world, and non-Jews as well, right? They see Israel as a strong, powerful nation with a thriving economy. Maybe not the last 5-6 weeks, but no one's thriving these last 6 weeks. But right, but the problem that I believe is when variations of either of these two narratives, and very often a combination of both, become the whole conversation, right? The only reasons why I shouldn't forget Yerushalayim is because either, right, I'm not safe here or Jews aren't safe there, and that doesn't seem to mesh with either of our realities. So suddenly we become somewhat apart instead of together. There's something very convenient about both of these narratives, right? They make the reality of Israel irrelevant to our care and impervious to our frustration and ideological comfort. Because when Jews are in danger, whether here in America or in Israel, all the other issues that we care about become tomorrow's conversation. Right? We are living in the midst of a perennial death narrative, which requires us to transcend what we care about, to transcend our so-called selfish ideologies. Right? Put them aside. Now is not the time to think about them. Right? We can't think about gratitude. We're still stuck in struggle, and we could keep walking. But inside, as we continue to walk, a little part of us also continues to die. Right? Oh, but the structure's safe. We're still one. Right? But we're not. Right? What will be the next death narrative that we sell? Right? What's the next story that we'll tell ourselves to quiet our conscience and enable us to sleep at night? Is there another reason that we should make sure that we don't forget Yerushalayim? Do we need to believe that Jewish lives are in peril for us to be united, to be a united Jewish people? And I think the Jewish community has been living exclusively off this narrative for too long. It has failed to develop an additional language and justification for the significance and meaning of Israel, for the new, complex, and nuanced Jewish consciousness. Famed for our intelligence, we have failed to redefine the nature of our relationship, commensurate with our contemporary reality. So if we want to create a new relationship, if we want to give reason for, right, why shouldn't we forget Yerushalayim, whether it's Shamala or Shalmata for that matter? We have to recognize that while significant dangers exist in the world, Israel was not simply created in order to avoid death, right? Israel was created in order to establish life. Israel is important because it can enrich what it means to live as a Jew, whether that's in Tel Aviv, or that's in Washington, or that's in Los Angeles, or Buenos Aires, wherever in the world. So, or to put it in the terms of the original question, right? We returned to Israel not only to create Yerushalayim Shalmata, but also Yerushalayim Shamala. So why do I care? I'll speak personally, right? I care because Israel is where we are building land for the Jewish people, right? A place where our Jewish values get to shape the totality of a society. It's not easy. In fact, it's, I'm sure, quite difficult, but it's one of the greatest gifts, challenges, and opportunities of contemporary Jewish life. I mean, remember Gilad Shalit, right? With Gilad, the rabbinic teaching of whoever saves a life is as if they save the whole world became a reality. With every emergency mission to places like Haiti and Nepal, we see the value of Tikkun Olam leaping out of the Siddur, out of the Chumash. A Jewish society is one that says everyone, if they want, has the right to have a child. Like Israel funds in vitro fertilization to individuals who want or need. In fact, the highest percentage of in vitro births in the world is in Israel. And these are not just values in the pantheon of ideas. In Israel, they affect reality. They afford us an opportunity to build our own community and to see whether Torah is in fact eternal, whether it earns that right to continue to guide us into the future. I care about Israel because I refuse to allow it to fail. I care about Israel because if we walk away, we ourselves will have destroyed the Jewish people. I care about Israel because there is an experiment going on there which has the possibility of transforming the meaning of Jewish life is all over the world. I don't need my life to be threatened in order to care. It's the way Israel might live which inspires me. So what do I think Israel demands of all of us, especially Jews who are living outside of Israel, right? What is it that we need to do to ensure that we don't forget Jerusalem? Whether it is the reasons I gave or the reasons you have, right? Find what it is that excites you, right? Israel requires of all of us to connect with the deepest parts of our souls. It requires you to find ways to take these ideas and speak about them. I love a quote that Rabbi David Hartman once said. He said, Israel is too important to leave only to Israelis. In other words, right, we're living in a reality unprecedented in Jewish history, right, with two vital and powerful Jewish communities living side by side, right, one in Israel and the other, I think, centered in North America. And we need to think about Israel by what it does for Jewish flourishing and how it models a profound conception of the life well lived to humanity at large, right? We need to change our conversation about Israel. And we need to move beyond the conflict and Israel's enemies and focus instead on what Israel represents. We need to think of Israel in terms of the rich way of life that it makes possible. We can begin by adding, I think, to our vocabulary, a narrative of values whereby we work together as partners, Israel and world Jewry, to determine the moral principles that must govern our national and collective lives and bring about their implementation. And this work together must be the essence of our relationship with Israel. And this is the sacred work through which our two Jerusalems will converge, the Jerusalem of today and the Jerusalem of tomorrow. And I think we have to keep the dream alive. Right? There's only one Jewish people. There's only one Jewish homeland, all of whom are depending on our care. This is where the conversation needs to begin. And if we want to endure, it must. And speaking at least for myself, and I guess for anyone outside of Jerusalem, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Rein. Sometimes I feel that maybe people who live outside of Israel have a clearer eyesight of what's happening here. So it's very harmonized in a very nice way. But Ayal, I'd like to sharpen the question, and I'd like to say, if Israel keeps on following its dreams, Yerushalayim Shel Mala, will it kind of destroy itself? Maybe we should just stop dreaming and trying to create the great society and being a light unto the nations, because it's killing us. Maybe we just look at the day-to-day life and just try to be a good enough society. Yerushalayim Shel Mata. So what are your thoughts about that?
Can you hear me? Great. There's something interesting about English that sometimes certain words, when I hear it in English, they hold a different meaning. And I was thinking about how the connection between memory and remembering, when you break down the word remember, it's to become a member again, to re-enter membership, which does not exist in Hebrew, the difference between zikaron and yizkor. And I think that if I'm trying to think about your question of maybe rephrasing it in why shouldn't we forget? Shouldn't we forget Jerusalem? Shouldn't we have this memory? I think that if we forget, then we don't know our why. And for me, living in Israel and technically having an American citizenship, I need to, in some way, justify the fact that I'm choosing actively to live in this country with objective struggles that exist, whether it's economical struggles or whether it's security struggles or whatever that might be. and I need to justify that. I need to justify for myself the fact that I'm choosing to live in a space that, as a father of 3, I am called in to do reserve duty. As a father of 2 children, they will join the army, and various thoughts that go to my mind as someone that's choosing actively to live in Israel. And while I was born here and I feel very connected, I need the why I'm here. And I agree with what the rabbi said, that the why for me cannot be a Noah's Ark model. While there might be some sort of conception that might have existed in the past, and more I hear that it's less existing in current society, in terms of the why does the state of Israel exist, I would like to think earlier than 1948, earlier than 1930, and to try and get into the mindset of the people that came here out of more Zionist ideology rather than specific persecution, and choosing to find a place that would be maybe a safe haven for them. And for me to read those texts that were written by various Zionist pioneers, whether settling in Degania or settling in Tel Aviv, or trying to create culture or language or infrastructure, or whatever might that be, try and ask myself, they knew their why. They were willing to give up a lot of their personal comfort in order to cross the great ocean, start something new in a place that was very difficult objectively. They had their why very clear. What I feel that happened within the many years since the establishment of the state, and going a little bit back in the last 100 years of Jewish presence within this space, and obviously it's a little bit more, I feel that the why has been a little bit diminished. It's not that clear. And I think that if we don't have a why that's solid enough, it's very difficult to A, justify for ourselves why are we here, and B, to take that value, that question, to another level, which will help us to achieve goals. Kind of like looking at it as somewhat of a compass that tells me to what direction I should go, to what direction I should act. And I feel that in many ways, remembering the past or going back in history and trying to see where I am today in regards of thoughts and ideologies helps me navigate easier in the sea of uncertainty and be more clear and accurate in terms of where do I want to go. I feel that will help me as well as society to promote a more better future and advance Israel into the places that it is supposed to be. So those are my thoughts on that.
Toda Ayal. We're going to come back to that, but I want to turn to Sara with a little different angle in terms of Israel. Israel is now 72 years old. And in years of the states, we're kind of in the adolescent period. We're not a baby, but we're definitely not grown-ups yet. So we're kind of in high school, maybe in the beginning of our army. An adolescent period is a lot of times characterized as a place that you rebel against your parents, or you question the assumptions that you grew up upon. So, Sara, I want to ask you, on the one hand, what in this day of independence, what are you grateful for? What are the things that you see so important in our society? But also, it'd be interesting to hear, what do you think the young generation rebels against or questions? What does this young generation question in Israel and is not satisfied, or things that maybe things should change? So if you could touch on those two levels.
Second. Yeah, okay. So I can say that the things that I'm grateful for in Israel is Israeli spirit that includes volunteering, the mutual responsibilities, the giving, and we have something that the simplicity and the willingness to work for something that is bigger than us. I feel it. I think that my friends feel it, and it's something that they're very strong. And I can tell that I think that our generation, the young generation, is we like to ask questions. We like to doubt. We're not afraid to challenge the people who we are facing, the people that we are like dealing with. And I think that this is very beautiful, and there are lots of positive things in it. And I believe that as a country, we have, we are not afraid to breaking conventions. This is something that is very strong as in individuals and as a country, and it makes us think in a different ways, and prevents us to be shackled to all the approaches. Can you repeat your second question?
No, so the following, so you said a lot of things that you're grateful for and that you like in Israel. And also Sara just finished her officer's course, so a lot of times that kind of strengthens our eyesight of Israel. I'd like to ask you, Sara, also together with that, what are the things that you think that should change, or that if they change, Israel will become a stronger country or a better country?
Okay, so I think that in my experience in the army, the biggest positive things that we have in the army is the ability to like take lots of populations and meet them together. And in the army, like each soldier is equal to the other soldier, and it's very beautiful. We can talk to each other, we can like fight, and they have a dialogue. And I think that the problem is that we don't have such meetings like this after the army. And in addition, I think that we let the biggest problem, one of the problems that we have as a society is that we let extremient, קיצוניות, יואב? קיצוניים?
Extreme people or extreme ideas in people.
Yeah, extreme ideas, extreme opinions to like be the big issue and takes lots of our, and be the like נפח מרכזי, אני מנסה לומר.
That the extreme people or extreme ideas that become like the most loud voices, or take too much of our discourse, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't know or how, or maybe we don't want always to give legitimacy to opinions that is different from us. And I think that we need to solve it by education, by like go and meet people that not born and raised like you. And from my experience, when you meet people, and like my experience as Ethiopian girl in the army, and I have been in like my units, we don't have lots of Ethiopian girls and Ethiopian guys. And when you meet people and you explain them how like about yourself, about the place that you came from, like it gives so much good הזדמנויות, opportunities.
Opportunities.
Yeah, opportunities. And yeah, this is it.
Okay, so I think it's very interesting that Sara, you're ending your words with actually what Raya talked about in the beginning, which is really trying to bring people in society together. The army is a melting pot. Everybody has to go there. But after the army, truth is,
We don't have.
we live in different neighborhoods and grew up in different educational system, read different newspapers, see maybe different channel TVs. And if we don't take an effort to have a joint discussion, it really does not happen. But there's another joint discussion that I'd like to ask and end with, is the discussion about a shared Zionist approach, not only within Israel, but within the Jewish people. Can we have that shared discussion also between different parts of Jewish life around the world? And not only defining here what Zionism is, and saying, tag along to what we say, but also trying to have a joint discussion here. And I'd like to refer that question to you, Rabbi Rein. Also, you mentioned that you are an officer in the United States Army. Now, maybe for people in the U.S. that comes very naturally, but from Israel, it does sound a little bit, so you're a soldier in the United States Army, and you're a congregational rabbi, and you're celebrating Israel independence. I just have to ask, is there any inner conflict in those different roles you play, or does that come with no struggle? And
Can you sub the question maybe? לחדד את השאלה.
לא, אז חידדתי את זה לרב,
אוקיי.
השאלה הוא, כאילו, אם יש לו איזה קונפליקט פנימי, שהוא משרת בצבא שם והציונות שלו.
הבנתי.
You're on mute, Rabbi Rein, you're on mute.
There we go, much better. And this is a question that my colleagues, your fellow rabbis, right? Because the reality is, 15 years ago now, I raised my right hand and declared that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, well and faithfully discharge the office of the United
Can you hear or?
What?
I'm just, נירה, כולם שומעים? זה רק אני שלא שמעתי?
לא שומעים.
We couldn't hear you, Rabbi Rein. We couldn't hear what you said. You want to try again?
How about now? Any better?
Okay.
Sure. Are we still yes?
You're coming and going. So maybe we're going to leave
my existence. Are we better now?
Let's give it a last try, yes.
One last try, okay. So 15 years.
Okay, we're not.
The Constitution of the United States, right?
יואב?
כן.
אני הייתי רוצה להוסיף משהו על ה...
אז בסדר גמור, אני אגיד לו. So Rabbi Rein, we're going to leave that question open because we can't really hear you. So let's just leave it open and we're going to turn to...
Am I back now or no?
I think you're coming and going, so let's just we'll leave that to another opportunity because our time is so limited. I'm going to turn to Raya.
Sure.
Wanted to add a few things. We're really entering our first phase of it.
Okay, I just wanted to add to your question about Jerusalem that is on the earth and in heaven, that I think that the phrase from Isaiah, which ירושלים במשפט, ציון במשפט תיפדה ושביה בצדקה, maybe you can say it in English. You can say it in English?
ציון במשפט תיפדה ושביה בצדקה.
Never mind. It means, I think that the ציווי, that what we are, the command. The command is for us to act in Jerusalem on earth, from Jerusalem above, is to do. We remember is not just something that we think about, that stays in the mind. Remember is an order to do, to act, and we should act that Jerusalem will be, as we say, Or LaGoyim, as the center of justice, the center of a worthy society. So this is something that we have to do. It's an obligation.
Toda Raya. Before I say some last words, does anybody, Ayal or Sara, or Ream, we could try again, want to add closing remarks?
I can jump in. That's okay. I think that, can you hear me? Is this working well? Please nod. Yes? Great. I think that, I feel at least that if once growing up, I felt that the relationship between Israel and Jewish communities all over the world was somewhat of, the main show is here in Israel, and the audience or the supporters are outside of Israel. The reality that I see today is a little bit more complex, and it's more of a more equal relationship. And I think that one of the main struggles that Israeli society is dealing with is not so much the struggle of life and survival. I feel that that was the first 50 years of the state. And I feel that now the challenges of Israel is how Israel defined itself as an independent Jewish state and what does Jewish mean. And the relationship with Jewish communities outside of Israel, specifically the stronger Jewish liberal communities in North America, and their involvement within Israel is definitely a relationship that I feel benefits to both ways, to the Jewish communities outside of Israel, as well as very much I feel it as an Israeli that lives here, and how much these communities, in terms of insight, literature, spiritualness, create a bond that is already a two-way street. And I feel that that's very meaningful and very needed while dealing with the questions of what does a Jewish state mean? That voice is crucial.
So, Toda Rabba. So before we took some minutes from Itai's lesson already, so I'm just going to thank Sara, Raya, Ayal, and Rabbi Ream for sharing your thoughts and wisdom with us. We have people that, that only think about dreams and get to see the people on the ground. And we have people, good people, that they're doing such great work, but sometimes they just forget to dream also. So this is a challenge for us, I think, in Israel and the Jewish world. And I hope you could feel kind of the discussion that's going on today. So, Toda Rabba, 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 Rabba.